Did the Broncos find a way to bust out of their slump with a primetime beatdown over the Cincinnati Bengals? What were the biggest takeaways from Nuggets Media Day? And are Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes already in danger of letting this season slip away? All things to come on today's rundown, but we begin with a shout out to our friends at Denver Regenerative Medicine. Guys, if weight loss has been a struggle for you, it's time for something real. At Denver Regenerative Medicine, they use full-strength GLP-1 medications with doctor oversight. You can start today with a free consultation and get real results for under $300 a month. Book now at DenverRegen.com. We have a massive packed show today with all the action that's taking place, starting at over the weekend with the Colorado Buffaloes, leading into yesterday where you had Nuggets Media Day and a lot of fascinating things to glean out of Ball Arena. And then the nightcap, the Denver Nuggets and the Cincinnati Bengals, the late game on a Monday night doubleheader. And it went about as good as the Broncos could have asked, I suppose. But there's questions about how real what we saw last night is in reality what we'll see for the remainder of the season. So I want to get to all of it when I bring in our friend of the show, Denver sports analyst to the stars, Jake Shapiro from DenverSports.com. Jake, how are you, man?
I'm good. I love how it always gets astrological with you. Astrological with you. Perhaps if I spoke Spanish, I would get that word in Spanish like J.K. Dobbins probably could.
I don't know how to say to the stars. I don't know. I'm gonna work on that.
Again, I can tell you where a library is in Spanish, but that's about it.
Donde está la biblioteca? And donde está the Broncos running game, where we saw a streak broken last night that lasted 37 games. The 38th game, it was finally broken. 100-yard rusher, meaning that Latavius Murray is no longer the quizzical answer to a painful trivia question here in Broncos country. Jake, we have seen Sean Payton struggle to commit to running the football, and then when the commitment has been there, the execution has been pitiful. Last year's running back room, with Jaleel McLaughlin being inactive for 4 consecutive games, last year's running back room is completely gone from last year, unless you count Tyler Baday's minimal actions. But the big three are no longer there. It's J.K. Dobbins, it's R.J. Harvey, and it's looked better overall, I think, than last year through 3 weeks. But I think you would agree, right, that this last night's game against the Bengals was the first time we saw the Broncos have a respectable running game that you could be proud of, I think, beyond just what we're used to.
Yeah, let's be honest about it. The Bengals defense is very bad. So let's just make sure we get that out in the open. That's one of the reasons why last night the Broncos on J.K. Dobbins' last rush of the night got over 100 yards. But J.K. Dobbins is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL and has been since he got into the NFL. The only thing that's held him back is injuries. So for the Denver Broncos to finally put it together with an offensive line we know to be good, a running back that we know to be talented when he's healthy, and a secondary running back in R.J. Harvey, who the team is very high on, I think is a really bright sign for the Broncos' future with their offense.
Yeah, I think that when R.J. Harvey was drafted, it was kind of like, oh, well, this is going to be the guy. And it was just an easy fallback to say J.K. Dobbins, his injury history and things like that, that he, if we get 6 or 7 games out of J.K. Dobbins, which is about as much as every one of his previous teams has gotten out of him, in his NFL career, that's a blessing. But I got to be honest, Jake, the more that I'm looking at it, it doesn't feel like J.K. Dobbins is taking any kind of significant punishment. It feels like the way that they're running the ball is not the pounding nature on the body that you would think would wear a guy with injury issues down. I feel like the R.J. Harvey party is coming, but I don't know that there should be any hurry to push J.K. Dobbins out of the door, given what we've seen through the first month.
Well, it's naturally going to happen with Dobbins, given his injury history, most likely, right?
I knocked on wood, Jake.
You knocked on granite, so I'm not feeling great about it.
That's true. I don't have any wood around.
I mean, find some wood. Find some wood. But Dobbins last year, right, Richie? First 7 games, 8 games, the Chargers was awesome. And then he got hurt. If the Broncos can get 8 to 9 to 10 games out of Dobbins that are awesome and have him healthy for the playoffs, I think that is a really good sign for this team. RJ Harvey will naturally come in time. And yesterday was his best game yet. What he offered the Broncos in the pass catching game, I think, is really interesting, especially given the fact that he literally had never run a route in his life before like a year or two ago at UCF because he was a quarterback his whole life until his later stages of college. So I really like what RJ Harvey gives the Broncos. But you can't forget with J.K. Dobbins. He's a guy who ran for 2,000 yards at Ohio State his final year there. Big time college football. 2,000 yards in college, that's a ton, right? We just made a whole thing about Ashton Genty going for over 2,000 yards in college. No one ever talks about the fact that J.K. Dobbins did that too. So he was one of the best running backs in college. He goes to the Ravens, which has a good run scheme. He was awesome there when he was healthy. Chargers, same thing last year with another Harbaugh. And finally with Sean Payton, he's starting to get this run game in action and doing things that are multiple and finding ways to get Bo Nix on the move. It gives the Broncos so many different options that they did not have last year because when in doubt, they relied on Bo. The hope this year is when in doubt, rely on the run game. And that's something we started to see last night.
J.K. Dobbins, when he wasn't breaking out his flexing his Spanish on the telecast, he was post-game talking about the evolution of the running game through the first 4 weeks of the season and where he thinks they are currently at. And when asked that, J.K. Dobbins said, we're getting there for sure. We can get better. I can be better today. I had some runs where I could have broken a tackle and went to the crib, as we say in the locker room. I will get better. I'm going to keep working on that, and it's just going to keep getting better each and every week. We feed off of each other, pass game, run game. Nobody can stop us if we keep doing what we did tonight. And Jake, obviously that last sentence there, that nobody can stop the Denver Broncos if they play the way they played last night, certainly caught a lot of attention, caught my eye, caught some headlines. I know we wrote about it at DenverSports.com, which begs the question, Jake. There's two questions here. One, do you think that this performance in the run game, breaking that streak of 100-yard rushers, finding a legitimate rhythm, Sean Payton talked about using series instead of rotating play-to-play, drive-to-drive kind of thing, do you think that this performance will inspire more consistency in the run game from Sean Payton?
Yeah, both Dobbins and Sean talked about rhythm in the run game. And JK went as far to say, Sean's finally figuring me out and the whole offense out. And that process to me leads to the result and the thought that if that process is true, maybe they can beat anyone. I'm going to see when they play Philadelphia next week because that's the first real opponent in my mind besides the healthy Los Angeles Chargers that they've played this season. And then we're not going to know for 5 weeks because they play a bunch of teams that kind of stink. And then later this season, they run into a buzzsaw. So if the Denver Broncos next week against Philadelphia come out and run the ball for maybe 150 yards as a team and really give Philadelphia a fight and then establish that rhythm over that stretch of 5 games where they play struggling teams, I think they're going to look like a whole different team come late November, early December.
Bo Nix has had kind of a whole different look as we've kind of gone game to game. There was some struggle against Tennessee, came out on fire against Indianapolis before things kind of faded, showed some promise certainly against the Chargers, and he looked good again tonight. Do you feel like Bo Nix, who there's been conversation and talk about sophomore slump, and maybe he's I've heard from Dan Orlovsky and Joel Klatt and some of the other quarterbacks and contributors on our station that it just feels like there's a lot of white noise on the television between his ears and things need to just simplify and quiet and calm down. Do you feel like this game and this performance for Bo Nix, who had a bad pick in the end zone despite a blowout game otherwise, do you think that this game helped kind of get him over that hump and project forward for the remainder of the season?
The Bengals defense was on the field the entire game. Bo Nix had the option to go to a run game, to go to a pass game. The Cincinnati Bengals have one good defender, Trey Hendrickson, and a decent one in Cam Taylor-Britt. I'm not gleaning anything about Bo Nix's performance from this game and multiplying it towards the rest of the season. It's nice that he found a rhythm. It's nice that he went over 300 yards. Those are things an NFL quarterback should be doing against the Cincinnati Bengals. Bo did his job, and that's important that he did his job. But is this some sort of resolution as to, is Bo Nix not in a sophomore slump? I don't think so. I think we need to see Bo Nix against Philadelphia next weekend.
Well, that leads into my last question here, which was kind of the thing I think we're all pondering. The Broncos looked good on both sides of the ball outside of the first drive for Cincinnati. The defense held them without a play on the other side of the 50-yard line for the entire game. The offense was able to find success in the run game and in the pass game. Do you think, Jake, that what we saw against the Cincinnati Bengals is a true representation of who the Denver Broncos are on a consistent basis, or were we looking at a mirage in the desert?
Whew. And that's the question I think we're all asking, right? I personally am leaning towards this team is not as good as I had hoped. And you see it in little things. If you watch the game back from yesterday, Pat Surtain did not look like the defensive player of the year that we know him to be. And I think he's still dealing with that injury that he faced a little earlier this season and the lingering effects. He is getting beat by Jamar Chase quite frequently. Jake Browning just couldn't get the ball to Jamar Chase.
Right.
Then you look at the other side of the field with T. Higgins. The whole reason the Denver Broncos drafted Janae Barron was because T. Higgins lit up Riley Moss last year. Okay, so you use your first round pick to solve a problem. And yeah, in the stats, T. Higgins didn't light the Broncos up, but he was pretty open for a lot of that game. Jake Browning just couldn't get him the ball because Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper and John Franklin Myers are madmen. And that's nice. But when it comes to playing teams with real offensive lines and real quarterbacks, I still have major question marks about the Broncos defense. And that's not something I thought I'd be saying this early on in the season. And you couple that with the struggles in the run game until last night, the questions about Bo Nix and a sophomore struggle, and the fact that I still kind of think they don't have enough weapons out at pass catcher. I don't know that this team is much better than they were last year, which is a one and done in the playoffs.
Bonus question, because you just brought up a pass catcher that I've been frustrated with, and I think we've all been wondering about all season, and that's Evan Ingram, who has his best game as a Denver Bronco, 4 receptions, 29 yards on 7 targets. So clearly, and you could tell when the Broncos were in the red zone there and Bo's rolling out, they were looking to feed the ball to Evan Ingram, and Bo holds onto the ball too long. Evan steps out of bounds on the sideline, then he's covered too quickly on the following play. But multiple plays with 10 yards or less into the end zone, they were looking for Evan Ingram, and it's just not connecting. So, Jake, despite the fact that he has his best game as a Bronco, what have you made of Evan Ingram's start to the season, injuries included, and has it changed at all your perception of what the Joker in Sean Payton's offense really means and really does?
Yeah, Evan's been bad. Like, let's be honest. He's not been worth $30 million, but I think a lot of that is due to the injury and him trying to fight through it. So I'm going to give him a pass at this point. I need to see more of Evan Ingram. I thought what we saw yesterday with Sean Payton putting him in the backfield at times, running tight end screens, gives the Broncos a concept of what that Joker can be. And to me, that's a quite interesting player. You couple that with RJ Harvey, who literally looked good anywhere on the field last night. And those are 2 players you're going to have to watch out for if they're producing at that level, if you're another team's defense. So I have hope still on Evan Ingram and RJ Harvey that they can be guys that are Joker or Joker-like. But as far as what they've done so far, I need to see more than against the Cincinnati Bengals defense, which historically is so bad.
Yeah, no, it was tough to watch at times. I mean, you had a situation where I saw, I rewound it actually on the broadcast, and I've seen it cut up on social media. The Bengals offensive line, the Broncos rushed 3, and the Bengals offensive line used 4 players, the 2 guards, the center, and the running back, to block 1 defender in the middle, while Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper both beat the tackles and hit Jake Browning from both sides for a sack. So they rushed 3, and players almost had to split a sack in that situation. They are in trouble over there in Cincinnati. But I want to shift gears to the Denver Nuggets because they had their media day yesterday on the morning of Monday before we got to all of the Broncos chaos in the evening. And Jake, you were there along with our own Anilo Piro. You are a mainstay over at Ball Arena when it comes to our Nuggets coverage. And I'm curious about some of your initial thoughts and observations, getting to see a lot of these new pieces and faces in the busy offseason for Ben Tenzer and Jonathan Wallace, from Cam Johnson to Jonas Valanciunas to bringing Bruce Brown back and Tim Hardaway Jr., plus getting to talk to the main characters of Jokic and Jamal and Christian Brown. What were some of your initial takeaways from Media Day yesterday?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the best team the Denver Nuggets have ever had. It's talented, it's deep, it's versatile. And it's something I've brought up on this station quite a bit here at Denver Sports. But I was sold on that statement yesterday with the talk and the chatter from Jamal Murray, from Jonas Valanciunas, from Tim Hardaway Jr. These guys sacrificing individual stuff for a team goal. And it's easy to say, but when Jamal Murray looked the way he did, and was dead serious the way he was, you knew it was real, unlike maybe some past media days.
Yeah, Jamal's always been the interesting one, right? Because I mean, you look at media day last year, and we're having the conversation like, did Jamal Murray, the second best player on a title team, find a way to lose media day?
I've never seen someone more unhappy after getting $200 million.
100%.
Yeah,
and so he's kind of got this mercurial figure, and some of it I think he plays up intentionally. He likes kind of being antagonistic with the media. And
oh, it's so good.
and, yeah,
he makes guys so uncomfortable. I love watching people. Their skin crawls.
Yeah,
and for me, I'm like, I live for it.
Yeah, so he's always been an interesting one. But you mentioned Jonas Valanciunas, and I actually really liked and thought it was great to hear Jonas Valanciunas through his own words in a microphone with a Nuggets backdrop say some of the things that he said. And he went out of his way to clarify and clear up when asked about his time and being here in Denver. He said, one thing I want to clarify is I'm here. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to dive in to win more games than ever. So I think we have a great opportunity to compete for the highest level. And he went on to say, the biggest thing that excites me is the opportunity to win. I want to do everything to win a championship, to go all the way. So I'm here to do whatever. And I think that was just a really refreshing and maybe something that deep down a lot of people maybe knew or felt. But I feel, given the dramatic nature of the acquisition coming over from Sacramento and this Panathinaikos temptation and all of that was there, I think it was really mature and wise and nice to hear Jonas Valanciunas at Nuggets Media Day put all of that to bed.
What's in the past is what he said, and the future looks bright, and it's on each of us individually to make that future look brighter. I thought that was perfectly said by Jonas Valanciunas, and it's not worth thinking about how he was acquired or the rumors or the drama at this point now, because he addressed it and addressed it brilliantly. Now it's looking at Jonas Valanciunas is the best backup center the Denver Nuggets have had since Nikola Jokic was the backup center. He might be the most talented bench player the Denver Nuggets have had since either DeMarcus Cousins or J.R. Smith. Jamal Murray talked about kind of an Enes Kanter-like second unit that the Denver Nuggets could run. Enes Kanter in that second unit for the Portland Trailblazers a couple of years back literally won the Blazers a playoff series against the Nuggets. So what the Nuggets can do with their bench, whereas last year they were -10, -12, -8 every single night, this year, not even maybe staying afloat, but perhaps winning some bench stints, is going to completely flip the script on this team. The Nuggets were a really good team last year. They won over 50 games. They took Oklahoma City to 7. They rarely blew teams out. Christian Brown made a statement yesterday when he said, one of our goals this season is to blow teams out more often. And they can do it with that bench.
I got to be honest with you, Jake. I said earlier or late week last week, I said that I am really struggling to not dive just head first into this Nuggets hype pool.
Oh my God.
I think I'm really struggling with it. We've been bitten in the past. I mean, the year they won the title, there was a lot of hype. Avalanche, similar story, but I'm really struggling when you look at the starting five that they'll have, swapping out Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson, which I think is at minimum at the worst possible catch every red light, a net neutral. And I think it will be significantly better. And then you bring in the bench depth that they'll have, bringing back Bruce Brown, who may not be the same Brucey B that he was in the title year, but I don't think he'll have to be. You bring in a veteran shooter off the bench like Tim Hardaway Jr., Jonas Valanciunas as the backup 5, and also being able to play alongside Jokic to give Aaron Gordon a spell and just have all that size in the front court there. I'm really struggling with it, and you are not doing much to help me fan those flames. So, Jake, if you're telling me that this is going to be the best team that the Denver Nuggets have ever had, the floor for this team has got to be an NBA Finals appearance, right?
To me, the floor is the Western Conference Finals, because Oklahoma City is the second best or the best team in the NBA. If the Nuggets are number 1, OKC's 2, or vice versa. So the two best teams in the NBA are scheduled to meet on the same side of the bracket. So unfortunately, I got to set the floor at the Western Conference Final, but that's pretty darn good. And you look across the NBA, Cleveland would be a really tough matchup for the Nuggets if the Nuggets got to the NBA Finals. There's a couple other teams, but man, that Fred VanVleet injury, the West is a clear path for the Nuggets to take off and just absolutely run with it. And I got news for you. If you got to save the date that says you got a wedding coming next June, tell those folks you ain't going, because you're going to be at Ball Arena. Like, the Denver Nuggets will be playing in June. I fully believe this. Oklahoma City is going to have to deal with the struggle of being the reigning champion, trying to repeat, they've got a unique situation where they've got some younger guys that are hungrier and have stuff to prove. So maybe they won't face that, championship hangover we've seen in recent years. But that championship hangover, man, is real. We saw it here in Denver. We saw it last year in Boston. We've seen it with Golden State. We've seen it with all these different teams. So whatever's coming for Oklahoma City, it's going to be nasty. And one thing you haven't even brought up, Richie, which is the Denver Nuggets have a brand new coach. We didn't even bring that up. Like, they have a new coach for the first time in 10 years. We're out here talking about, it's fun that they've got Tim Hardaway Jr. Yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr. is great. He said he's going to take charges, and Bruce Brown made fun of him for it. That's exactly what you want out of a guy who's going to play a lot of different roles for the Nuggets. But what's big is the philosophy. And David Adelman straight up telling us, hey, we're going to play more zone defense. We're going to do different things with the lineups. We're going to manage our guys and their load a little bit different. We're going to see things that are different with the Denver Nuggets for the first time in years. So what their identity has been for the last 10 years is going to be slightly altered. And it's something I wrote about for DenverSports.com yesterday. It's how do you mix this old foundation, which is so good and so successful, with these new ideas and this new talent, which we know will be so good. And that's going to be the struggle. And they're going to lose to some teams in November or December, and it's going to be really frustrating because they're trying to do some things that are different. But the goal is to be at their best come April. And I think what Jamal Murray said yesterday, which was, I still have All-Star game on my mind, but I'm just trying to focus on being the best Jamal Murray I can be in November. That's the first time he's ever said that. Of I'm trying to be the best I can be early. And Richie, yesterday, NBA Media Day all across the country, all these teams have guys injured. The Denver Nuggets are so fully healthy that a guy we didn't even bring up, they have their first round pick healthy. Deron Holmes. They're adding a first round pick to this team. And last spring, everyone was talking about, Deron Holmes is going to be such a big addition. Yeah, he is. And we're not even talking about it. They have so much more depth than they did last year. We're talking about it with the Broncos. Jaleel McLaughlin, who was so big for them last year, can't even get on the field. Right. Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther are going to struggle to get on the court at times.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I'll knock on granite again for health concerns and things like that, because I agree with you, Jake. On paper, if things pan out the way that they've constructed in the offseason, and you've got homegrown depth pieces like Julian Strawther, like Peyton Watson, like Deron Holmes to supplement all of these new additions, I just feel like it's going to be hard not to favor them in the majority of the games that they play, and to come out of a Western Conference, which has seen a shakeup, as you alluded to.
I mean, it's still really tough, and David Adelman nailed that, and the schedule is going to be really tough this year. Yeah. Like the West,
no one said it's going to be easy.
Yeah, but I mean, the West is significantly harder than the East, but to me, there are only two teams on the level in the Western Conference. And then there's a pack of teams. They still got to prove they can beat the Wolves. The Wolves, to me, aren't on the Nuggets level, but they still haven't beaten them recently, right? The Clippers, they gave them 7 games last year, and they brought in some really interesting pieces this offseason between John Collins and Brook Lopez. Like, there are some really solid teams that had good off seasons in the West. But to me, none of them are on the level of Denver, Oklahoma City.
Want to shift gears finally to the Colorado Buffaloes up in Boulder, who over the weekend suffered a loss. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
How many times you say that with Coach Prime?
Against BYU. Jake, what's going on up in Boulder, and why have they not been able to find any form of footing going into a season where there were certainly expectations that would be the bare minimum?
Yeah, I think this team has a glaring lack of talent. And that is alarming to me when Deion Sanders is paid to be one of the highest people in the country coaching football. And his whole MO is getting talent to Boulder. And we're not seeing a talented football roster. Yeah, they were better than they were against BYU in the bowl game last year. But let's be honest. Did Colorado really care about that game? Shedeur Sanders was wearing New York Giants cleats before that game. I don't know how serious they were. BYU, seriously. Colorado broke out some interesting things this weekend. Pat Shurmur actually had some tricks up his sleeve. They all disappeared in the second half. Maybe it's because Caden Salter could not execute. That could be a question mark. Maybe Juju Lewis isn't ready. And those two issues at quarterback, those two guys being problematic at quarterback, is showing a lack of talent elsewhere, because the offensive line truly is better. But we're in year 3 of Coach Prime, and they literally cannot run the football still. And there are some really big problems, like the fact that Deion Sanders is one of the best defensive backs in the history of the NFL and the history of the world, right? The Colorado defensive back situation is horrid. It's putrid. And the fact that they can't get defensive backs to play at Colorado, to me, is a 9-alarm fire of things that might be going wrong with inside that program. So there is a real chance now that they've lost to BYU, and they face some easier teams, but that Big 12 schedule is brutal. There's a real chance that as 13.5-point underdogs going into this week, Colorado might go winless in Big 12 play.
They have had some struggles in the defensive back room. Obviously, you got DJ McKinney, but the Malachi, the Makari Vickers, and the Tion Parks situation was not good against BYU. They haven't had a ranked win since they played TCU in Week 1, September 2nd,
I mean,
2023.
Richie, you let number 47 torch you.
47 at the quarterback position is just abhorrent. It doesn't look right.
That's a middle reliever.
I want to be. Listen, it's a Victory Monday for Victory Tuesday, I should say, for the Broncos. So I don't want to be overly negative. But Jake, it really does feel like what's going on up in Boulder is, I don't even want to say it's a consequence of your own actions, even though in some ways that it is. But it's kind of disheartening when you've got Coach Prime standing up at the podium or sitting at the podium after the game, talking about how the moment was too big for his players against BYU. He said, quote, "Sometimes it felt like the moment was just too big for some of our athletes. They've got to play better. All of them have to play better. We've got to do a better job of preparing them and coaching them." And Jake, if that's what you're saying 5 weeks into a college football season where every game has such high importance to your postseason future, your bowl eligibility, etc., and you are the walking, breathing hype machine. Every Colorado game is on national television in standalone windows most of the time. You've got slogans and merch and documentaries on streaming services, and you're the transfer portal king. You're inviting all these things in, and you're pillaging from all these other programs to amass your talent year to year to year. And then you're going to say that the moment is too big? You have to be able to prepare them for that moment if that's the route you're going to take. You can't invite the smoke and then choke on it.
Yeah, and then what he says today on Tuesday, I want them to play like their life is on the line. I want them to play like their careers are on the line. Why are you putting the onus all on 20-year-olds? Like, It's you, man. Right. It's you. It's your job to coach these people and prepare them so the lights aren't too bright. Like, I know Deion Sanders thinks he's like a god, and he is. Like, he is a god at football. Like, he really is. But he's not a god at football coaching. Like, he has not proven that yet at any level. He really hasn't. He was really good at Jackson State because his son is an NFL quarterback, and he recruited the best player in college football to play there, and he got some other interesting players. He comes to Colorado. They have a horrible year one after that fun start, and then they have a year two that is led by two awesome players and then some really good players around him. This year, it's already seeming like that second half of year one where it's lifeless and there's a malaise and there's a lack of accountability and a lack of an ability to look themselves in the mirror and say, I am the problem. Deion Sanders and the coaching staff is part of the problem. And the fact that we can constantly say that Colorado snatches victory from the jaws or snatches defeat from the jaws of victory, like this is a common theme. It comes back to in-game management and the decisions that this coaching staff has made going all the way back to Stanford in 2023. This has happened time and time again. They lose close games that they should have won. They had the second best success rate among losing teams in college football this week. They were a successful team this week and lost. That's coaching, man.
No, it is. And I have been adamant that the CEO style coach in college football can work. I do believe there's a successful model for that. And I think that Coach Prime certainly fits that bill. But the problem is the CEO has to, if he's not going to be he's got to be the businessman that runs the company or runs the program. And that means you got to bring in people who can do the things that you can't, who are proficient where you are deficient. And then you've got to be the leader of men. And I feel like...
So not Pat Shurmur.
No, not Pat Shurmur.
Okay, I was just clarifying.
Not Pat Shurmur.
Okay.
Not Pat Shurmur. And honestly, there haven't been a ton of bright spots on the defense either for Robert Livingston.
I have my own problems with that. And he's the highest paid coordinator in Colorado history and all that. But you have all these coaches that you bring to Colorado for their NFL experience and the gold jackets and all that. And it's fun and it should get you recruits and all of that. But you have to go on the road to get recruits. And that's something the staff doesn't really do. Besides the point, I don't need the NFL experience. I want college football experience and college football success with these guys and a proven recruiting track record. And a lot of Colorado's success is a bunch of names that they've pulled out from the NFL that are friends with Dion. And to me, that is a red flag, and it always has been about this coaching staff, especially with the amount of reliance Dion has to do on this coaching staff being that CEO college football coach.
Well, the Colorado Buffaloes certainly have an uphill battle ahead of them. Their Big 12 slate is not going to be very forgiving. And I think that until they are able to establish an identity, whether or not they believe in it or not, they are going to struggle regardless of who plays at quarterback and regardless of who's lining up opposite of them. So we will hope that they get that going and get back on track this weekend. For the Nuggets, the sky literally could not be any brighter for me. I think I've just at this point I have dove in head first. I will pick them. I will financially invest in them probably to win an NBA title and to do all sorts of great things, even if it means another MVP for Nikola Jokic. And for the Broncos, listen, I believe the victory against the Cincinnati Bengals is closer to a mirage than it is a future indicator of things to come. But I don't necessarily put that all on the Broncos. I think that the Cincinnati Bengals are bad. They needed to blow out and badly beat a bad team, and they did. And this weekend's game against the Eagles will go a long way as to proving whether or not that is going to be more of the norm. And then to be honest with you, you mentioned a stretch there, a pocket there in the middle where they're playing some teams that are struggling. But they play some pretty decent teams on the back end of their schedule as well. The Packers, the Chiefs on Christmas Day, and the Chiefs look like they're starting to tip back upwards. So any early season advantage there seems to be, leveling out a little bit. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I still think that everything that the Broncos can achieve or wanted to achieve before the season is still in front of them. But because you gave away 2 games on walk-off losses that you should have won, things are going to tighten up. That belt's going to tighten pretty significantly. So we will monitor it all for you going throughout the course of this week. Stay locked into DenverSports.com for the great work from Jake Shapiro and Will Peterson and Trent Finnegan, who writes more articles than I can count. James Marilat and Andrew Mason are senior Broncos writers. So much great content in addition to our wonderful lineup of shows at Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan and all of our digital shows. So like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and catch all of the shows like The Rundown, Denver Sports Daily, Mile High Hoops, which Jake Shapiro will be doing here in a little bit later this afternoon with Anil Opiro, and Mile High Hockey with Will Peterson and Mike Evans kicking off in the very near future as well. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will catch you tomorrow at noon for the next Rundown.
I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the work.